Hello. Okay, an idea. Analysis is about resolving contradictions. That's what analysis is. And in the West, we have long assumed that this was pretty much always possible, that all contradictions are only apparent once we sort them out. There is no contradiction, and there is a single right answer. Now, this is odd in the face of our human experience for thousands and thousands of years, probably longer, but I'm just taking written history, in which there's all kinds of conflicts and contradictions which have not been resolved, and many which show, a tendency towards being intractable and unsolvable. But still, we've had this faith, we philosophers and thinkers and all people doing analysis, that things can be sorted this way. And so it's as if, if a couple gets divorced and they share a home, and only one of them can have the home, the idea is that if you had enough information, one of those people deserves the home and the other does not. End of story. Okay, now this is not the kind of life that we've led, and a lot of people who believe this is possible, since they don't know how it sorts out, they live a little bit more relativistically. Because relativism is the idea that there are real contradictions. Now, as the art of resolving contradictions, it should generalize to the art of resolving conflict in general. But classical Western analysis fails miserably at this. Why? Because you're faced with a dispute, all right? And one of you is right and one of you is wrong. It's not possible for you both, for the valid parts of your arguments even, to contradict. And so you're faced with the decision of, if you want to give credence to their view, you have to think that your own view holds no credence. But you feel that it does. You know the grain of truth in your own. You know that it doesn't have zero value. You might not even be sure of it and still know, well, there's a grain of truth that I'm defending here. And so if it's one of us is totally wrong, it's them, because I'm not totally wrong. And so this classical goal of there being just a one truth tends to make people force people to choose sides, rather. And of course, they choose their own side. Now, in relativism, you might very well choose your own side, and certainly the skeptical approach would argue that, of course, you're going to choose your own side. But still, you do it on a different principle, a more open-minded principle, because, you feel that their statement will have some validity, even if they're 90% wrong, which is enough for you to discount their idea and go on your own idea. There's still 10% of validity. There's still something of value there. And so you will tend to look and try to give value to that and find some sort of compromise. Now, the first kind of conflict, the first kind of resolution that you look for in a conflict is for it to be a matter of perspective. Okay, a trivial perspectivism. For example, if there's an object and I'm here and you're over there and the object is here, and you see a circle when you look at the object and I see a square. Well, that's a contradiction because a circle is not a square. But the answer is that we each are seeing two-dimensional projections of a three-dimensional object, and the three-dimensional object in this case would be a cylinder. Okay. That's merely perspective, and this is always something you try to do, and you do this both in classical analysis as well as a relativistic analysis. You try to look to see if the contradiction is just perspective. Okay, and generally, if it is just perspective, then the people, this analogy works, the people are seeing a projection, and what you'll do is you'll find that there's a higher dimensionality, and that's related to enlightenment, because when you see more dimensions, that's shedding more light on more things, and that's how I've defined enlightenment. So you try to resolve these, but it's possible that in classical analysis, you'd expect to just get rid of all the contradictions by the time you're done with your analysis, if you can fully finish it. But in relativism, we try to do that, but we expect sometimes that what we're going to dig up is a real conflict. Now, what is real conflict then? So what is a real conflict? It's not mere perspectivism. Not that perspectivism isn't involved, but that isn't mere perspectivism, trivial perspectivism. And that is survival. Survival. If two people's survival come in conflict, that is a real conflict. Okay. Now, there's complications to this. And basically,